The cold steel of the prison gates slammed shut behind them, and the deafening sound of marching boots faded into the distance. The women, once proud and free, now stood in the darkness of captivity, their hands bound by invisible chains, their hearts heavy with uncertainty. Yet, amidst the harsh, unyielding walls of their imprisonment, something began to stir within them. It was the spirit of survival, the flicker of defiance that no force on earth could extinguish. This was no ordinary struggle. It was a battle against fear, against death, and against the unimaginable horrors of captivity. It was a fight that would transform these women into heroes, warriors whose courage would echo through history, a story of strength and resilience that would never be silenced. Behind the barbed wire and the watchful eyes of their captors, they found a way to conquer their deepest fears, a way to rise above the terror of death, and a way to hold on to their humanity when everything else was stripped away. But what happened next changed everything. In the early days of their imprisonment, everything was foreign to them. Nothing familiar, nothing safe. The sound of the guards' boots on the gravel, the clank of chains, the hiss of the electric fence's zeet was all overwhelming. They had been taken from their homes, torn away from their families, and thrown into a world where the only certainty was fear. Yet, these women did not break. Each day was a challenge, a test of endurance, a moment when they could have given in to despair, but chose not to. The cold stone floors of their cells, the unbearable hunger, the long hours of forced labor, they had all been designed to break their bodies and spirits. Yet, in the face of this, the women who were thrown into these dark corners of the world did not bow down to the cruelty of their captors. Instead, they found strength they never knew they had, resilience they didn't think was possible, and the will to survive even when death seemed like a better alternative. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the women who had been taken as prisoners of war began to realize something extraordinary. Their captors could control their bodies, but they could not control their spirits. Behind the cold walls of their cells, they found a small spark of hope, and they refused to let it be extinguished. They found ways to communicate in secret, to share food when it seemed impossible, to offer a quiet word of encouragement when despair threatened to consume them. The world outside may have been at war, but within the confines of their prison, a quiet war was being waged, one where the enemy was not just the gods, but the fear, the hopelessness, and the overwhelming urge to give up. Yet she never imagined this moment would reshape her destiny. There were moments when it seemed the fight was too great, when the weight of the world was too much to bear. But then, in the midst of their darkest hours, they found the courage to stand tall, to look death in the face, and refuse to give in. In the silent moments of solitude, when the only sound was the wind howling through the cracks in the walls, they found their true power. And then something no one expected. They became more than just prisoners. They became warriors. They were no longer just fighting for their survival, they were fighting for each other. Each woman, bound together by the shared experience of captivity, became a part of a greater whole, a sisterhood of resistance that would carry them through the worst of their trials. The smallest acts of defiance, the quiet gestures of solidarity, became their weapons against the terror they faced each day. Behind these ruins, a secret waited. It was a secret born from the strength of these women's unbroken spirits, a secret that would change the course of their captivity and, in time, altered the very course of the war. They had learned to fight not with weapons, but with their hearts, their minds, and their unshakable belief in one another. It was a quiet revolution, one that no one saw coming, one that would inspire those who came after them. With each passing day, they grew stronger. They learned how to resist, how to fight, how to survive. They did not wait for rescue, they became their own rescuers, carving out small moments of rebellion from the harsh landscape of their captivity. What she discovered next would shake even her commanders. Amidst the brutal reality of their confinement, the women found ways to hold on to their humanity, to create a sense of normalcy where there was none. They gathered in the shadows, shared stories of their lives before captivity, and made plans for the future. Telahid, they cried. They mourned the lives they had lost, and they celebrated the strength they had gained. They turned their suffering into a weapon, using it to fuel their resistance, their fight for survival, and their desire to live. They knew that the enemy could take everything from them except their will to fight, and it was this will that would ultimately carry them through the darkest days of their lives. They became symbols of defiance, their actions a testament to the unbreakable spirit of women who refused to be crushed by the horrors of war. Each small victory, each act of resistance, became a symbol of their strength. They no longer feared death, they welcomed life. They knew that their survival meant more than just a personal triumph. It was a victory for all the women who had come before them, for all those who would come after them, and for those who never had the chance to speak for themselves. In their quiet moments of rebellion, they became more than just survivors. They became heroes. And as the war raged on, they held on to their unshakable belief in the possibility of freedom, knowing that one day, their moment would come. As the war drew to a close, the women who had endured the unimaginable would find themselves free once more. The camps were liberated. The war ended. But the scars of their experience would remain. They had conquered fear, they had conquered captivity, and they had conquered death itself. They had fought not just for their lives, but for their dignity, their humanity, and the right to be remembered. They had endured the darkest of times, but their spirits had never been broken. They had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, even when everything seemed lost, there is always a way to fight back, to survive, and to rise again. These women, the unsung heroines of World War II, became a testament to the strength of the human spirit, to the power of resilience, and to the unbreakable spirit of those who refused to be silenced. And when the world finally acknowledged their sacrifice, it was not as victims of war, but as warriors who had fought for their lives and for the lives of others. Their legacy lives on in the hearts of those who remember their stories, in the stories of their children and grandchildren, and in the memory of a generation of women who conquered fear, captivity, and death, leaving a lasting mark on history.